Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about CSA Awareness and Prevention, and that means Child Sexual Abuse Prevention and Awareness. Yes, switched them around, but you know what I mean. So that's our topic today. That is what we will be thinking about with our lovely guest, Yvonne, who has been here before. And I had to bring her back because her mind is so beautiful that we have to pick it again, right? So thank you so much, Yvonne, for coming onto my show, sharing your time and your perspective with me to just start diving right in. When you hear the words child sexual abuse, those three words, what does that make you think about?
Well, for me, because I'm very much aware of the issue, I think of everything that involves sexual abuse. That is uh, touching behaviors and non-touching behaviors. Um, what I also think about is that it is such a major epidemic within our country that I have to speak about it and spread awareness on how we can prevent it because it is preventable.
Exactly. It is preventable. And I think that's the greatest thing that we all need to remember that it's preventable. But we just have to have that awareness. You know what I mean? We have to acknowledge that this does happen. And I think that's what the biggest thing that we have to first conquer is just like taking away that blind that's in front of people's eyes that just won't acknowledge the signs, won't acknowledge what exactly is going on in front of them or around them or just in their community or in their families or even in their homes, and I think that's
Mhm.
a big thing. So I guess for you, awareness, that word awareness, when you
Yes,
hear that word, what does that necessarily make you think about?
education.
Mm,
Um, One of the foundations of prevention is knowing what childhood sexual abuse actually is, because a lot of people believe that it's only touching behaviors, that it only has to involve that, and that is not true. Um, it's if someone is exposing themselves to a child, if someone um, talks about sexually inappropriate things in front of a child, if someone shows a child pornography, that's childhood sexual abuse, and that really does affect our children, as it doesn't seem as quote unquote serious as touching, but there are different levels to everything, right?
yeah,
Different levels
yeah.
to everything. And I think for a very long time, for childhood sexual abuse, it's only been this one thing. This is all that it is. And if it's not this, it's not childhood sexual abuse. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And so that's why
Exactly.
awareness is so important as to what it actually is.
Exactly. I absolutely agree. And I know you touched on some of the misconceptions about the child sexual abuse when it comes to awareness, but what are some other misconceptions when it comes to this?
That stranger danger, that it's people that you don't know, when in fact, 90% of victims know, love, and trust their abuser. And so do the parents, by the way. So,
Absolutely.
and something else that people need to understand is that these predators, they groom the parents along with the children. And so you think you have this very friendly, helpful person in your lives who just loves and adores your kids and would do anything for them. Those are the people, sadly, that you have to look out for and be like, wait a second, why are you so friendly? Why do you want to be around my kids so much? And not that every person who loves your child or wants to be a part of your child, obviously, that doesn't mean that they're a predator. But my point is knowing the people within your circle, knowing um, what's appropriate and not appropriate.
Yeah. Most definitely. You have to stop giving people the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? You have to
Yes,
stop giving people excuses on, oh, that's just how they are, or oh, it's okay. That's just how Fred is, or that's just how Jerry is, or that's just how Mary is.
exactly.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's another thing that is just a big misconception and or a big eye opener that people should realize. Like, if how many excuses do you have to give somebody to actually acknowledge their behavior. You know what I mean?
That
And I
part.
think, you know what I mean? And I think that's the thing. Like if you have to continually give somebody an excuse, then that's a red flag. That's a no-go. For me,
Absolutely.
I've have put it in my heart where if I have to excuse somebody's behavior, then I don't have to then I have to excuse that person out of my life. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
I love that.
Because
Mm-hmm.
those boundaries protects not only me but my children. You know what I mean?
Thousand percent. Yep.
And the people don't realize that. And I've had to stand up for my family and my outside relatives. They're just like, why would you do that to so and so? Why would you exclude that person? And I'm like, because something about that person doesn't make my heart feel right. Something
Right.
about that person reminds me of my past, and it triggers something inside of me that I shouldn't have to be worried about, but it does. So because of that, I'm going to lean on it and I'm going to protect my children no matter what anybody makes me out to be. I will be the bad guy, but I will be the hero for my children, and I don't care. And that's what I wish more parents would have, that initiative, because it's like you said earlier, these predators will prey on the children's parents before the children. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I've seen it in the news. Oh, in the news they
Oh,
just
it's
talked
terrible.
about, yeah, in the news they just recently came out with an article about how this security officer for a Lutheran school was recording the girls in the bathroom. And it was the sad part is that when the school finally fired the security officer and asked for his laptop back and his supplies back, he was like, "Wait, give me a week. Give me a
Oh,
week so
yeah.
that
What
he can."
for?
Yeah, exactly, because he had to delete files and files and files of all of everything that he recorded.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. You really don't know what you're dealing with unless you actually acknowledge the signs beforehand. So I guess that leads
Right.
to my next question is, I
Well,
know
one
you.
thing before we hop over to that question, one thing that I wanted to say about this specifically is, you know, protecting our children from um, perpetrators and being mindful of the people around us isn't about thinking everybody around us is a predator. It's
Yeah,
about not taking a chance
there you go.
to find out.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter if that's just so and so's personality. Well, that's fine if that's their personality, but I am choosing not to allow my kids to go around that person because that's a red flag. So it's
Hmm.
about just not taking the chance with our kids. So, on to your
Exactly.
next question.
So I guess my next question is was going to lead towards the prevention. In your
Yes,
mind, what would be some great preventional steps that parents or just guardians or just people in general can take when it becomes to this?
absolutely. So, first thing, and there's a lot of controversy around this, but prevention really starts when our kids are young, when our kids are toddlers, when our kids are babies. Um, I got a lot of heat about this online recently, about asking our kids permission to change diapers and, give them baths. And what I want people to understand is first, nobody's asking a 2 week old baby permission to change their diaper, okay? We're talking about when the child is older and can understand,
Then they have that
okay?
awareness, yeah.
Yes, okay. So it's you say, "Can mommy change your diaper right now?" And if the kid says no, that doesn't mean you don't change your kid's diaper. It
Come on.
means that you are just normalizing asking permission. It isn't the goal here isn't to get the permission from your child. The goal here is to normalize getting used to adults having to ask permission to do
Exactly.
things before they do it.
Exactly. And that makes sense to me because when you start implementing that at a young age, when they become an adult, then they expect these questions when it comes to their body. And
Yes.
that's how I see it. That's how I see that you're trying to implement in the long term. When they become an adult, they're going to be more conscientious about who comes to their body, who
Mhm.
approaches their body. Why are you touching me in such a form? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because children, if they don't always have that comprehension because they weren't always taught that. And because of that, adults now in this day and age will allow people to touch them, people to get close to them, people to get
Mm-hmm.
into their personal space and think it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. In reality, it's not okay. Like I
Right.
remember one time somebody was just extra touchy feely with me and I was just like very uncomfortable because he kept on touching my arm, touching my hand, and I was just like, ugh, stop it. And I just literally had to be like, excuse me, I need you to step back. And then I had to tell him to step back just because you were too close to my space. And he gave me a weird look. And it was at a church at that, and they gave me a weird look. But I was just like, I don't care. I don't care who you call or what label, what title, what whoever you are, how long you lived on this God green earth, but you will respect my boundaries and you will respect the boundaries that I place around me because that's what gives me peace and I deserve my peace wherever I am. So I
Absolutely.
absolutely agree.
And
I
that
think
leads me to my second prevention that I wanted to talk
yes.
about is we don't force our kids to hug anyone or show
Mhm.
affection, even as babies, even as toddlers. Again, we're not talking about 2 week old babies that don't understand. We're talking about toddlers who can actually vocalize whether or not they want to be picked up, whether or not, they want a hug. And that's why that is so important because it instills in our children, wait a second, if grandma and grandpa can't touch me when I don't want to be touched, that means nobody can touch me when I don't want to be touched. And you think about that in the reverse. If you force your child to hug anybody and everybody that's an adult, they are going to grow up believing that they don't have the power to tell an adult no when they're uncomfortable. So it's all about empowering the kids to be able to express when they want affection and when they don't, because this is giving them body autonomy. It's empowering them to say no, and it
Mhm.
teaches them and lays the groundwork that people have to ask permission, that this is my body and that's it.
Mhm.
um, so that would be my second. And then my third would actually be, it is so important that we stop using cutesy names for body parts. We have to teach our children the proper terms for our bodies: vagina, penises, breasts. Because what happens when you use little nicknames, and I hate even saying these nicknames because it's just weird, but you know, I've heard cupcake. I've heard, yeah, yeah, pancake. I've heard like these kinds of things, and that's just weird to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Not just to
so,
you, sweetie. I'm on their same boat as the weird wagon because that is weird.
okay, those are things that you eat.
Yeah.
That's just weird. Okay, 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 okay. So that's why, no, these are serious body parts that we talk about. The vagina, the penis, that's very important too, to be honest and about body parts. And because if anybody tries to minimize or think about it, people could use those cutesy names to their
Advantage.
advantage, okay?
To
Okay,
lure a child in. Yeah.
exactly. And if someone goes to a girl and starts calling it something that other than a vagina, she's going to be like, what are you talking about? That's my vagina. It's not a cupcake. It's not a pancake. It's not a tootie. It's not all of these other things. Um,
Exactly. And you could just
yeah,
be straight up like, are you asking that you should we go eat an actual cupcake or pancakes? Or are you trying
right,
to imply that you're trying to do something sexually towards me? Because
right.
we need to have this clarification. So yeah, I think that is something that people really do need to do because I understand that a lot of the times teenagers they're exploring and they put these names to hide what they're talking about and then their younger siblings will be like what is it you're talking about and then they'll tell them but it's like they don't realize like the youth don't realize how much they try to cover things up to explore their sexuality, how much
Yeah,
that can really have a ripple effect negatively on their
Mhm.
younger siblings or on their younger youth around them, or just youth in general around them, because we don't know someone's frame of mind, and that is the problem. We don't know what's being processed in there. We don't know how they receive things. And because of that, just being black and white when it comes to your sexuality and and knowing yes, no, and vagina, penis, breast, you know what I mean, hair, it's just simple. Just call it what it is so that people will not be confused, because you're being misleading. You are being deceiving when you do such things. So yes,
Yep.
I absolutely agree. I think that's another great prevention, is just like, hey, let's be honest with it. So let's
Yep.
let's just be honest, rip off that band-aid. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Once you know that your child has the awareness to have a conversation, to actually speak and have a conversation, then yes, that's when you talk about life. That's when you be honest about it. You don't have to, it's not taking away their youth. Trust me, you're not taking away their youth by having a real conversation.
Right.
You
Right.
are providing them wisdom that they can take with them to their adulthood. And isn't that why we have children? So that they can become well-rounded adults. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Mhm.
isn't that the reason why we suffer as adults? Because we deal with other adults who are not well-rounded, who are not well-minded, who don't understand right and wrong, who don't understand these morals, grounds, and don't have these values. No, because there was a misconnection in their childhood and they don't understand that concept. And it's quite frustrating, to be honest, because
Yes.
there's so many people who will excuse all these bad behaviors like I was talking about earlier, and it's not fair for the children of the
Mm.
youth. It's not fair for the next generation coming in, because we're saying it's acceptable, but in reality it's not acceptable to call it that way. You know what I mean? Break it down, individuals. Break it down, human beings. We are trying, that's it. We are just trying to improve the next generation. So, I guess
That's it.
my next question is, if you could have any superpower, what would be your superpower?
So my superpower would be to eliminate childhood sexual abuse from the face of the earth. That would be my superpower. If I could do anything, I would want to do that. That would
That's a good
be, yeah.
That'll be a good superpower. So I have
It's a
to
good
ask you.
question.
So I have to ask you then, what is one of your biggest pet peeves?
Oh my God. Okay.
Bring it to my.
People that cut in line. Like if you're at the airport and you're standing in line and everybody have clearly lined up to wait for their
Turn.
gate to be called, their turn, and then somebody just this just happened to me. This man, me and my two girls were right there at the front, and this man just came right up between me and my daughters, cut in front of them, and I was just so that is my pet peeve.
I
And
would have been
also,
irritated too.
that's very irritating. And also, I have to say, drivers that don't let people merge, that really bothers me too.
That irks my soul. I lived in Florida. Oh my God. I lived in the
I'm in
Southwest.
Florida.
Okay, yeah. So, oh my God, Floridians don't know how to merge. Oh
No,
my goodness, they don't.
they don't.
All they
It's
do is
terrible.
they hope that we're gonna get there together, and
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna get the gifs because I ain't gonna budge. And it's
Yep.
always that game, and it's so irritating. Oh my goodness. When I lived in Orlando. Oh my goodness. And then the tourists. Oh my goodness. They don't know how to drive because they're out of the country. So like they don't know what's
They don't
happening.
know what's
Oh,
happening. No, I know. I know. So maybe
oh.
maybe because I am a Floridian, that's why I have that pet peeve because yeah, it's definitely a Florida thing for sure. For certain.
Oh yeah, and that line thing. Oh, that irks me too. Like especially you come in between me and my children. Oh, what?
Yeah. And
That
and
those are I'm gonna fight you.
aggressive with it. He was aggressive with it too, like giving us an attitude, like, how dare you hold me up? Like, it was the audacity for me. It was,
Like, do you
and
not know what you just did? Like, and
I'm telling
that's
you,
what irks me. Like people like that. Like they're
yep,
no accountability for their actions, but yet they feel like they have the damn right to be mad and to claim their position because they decided to do what they inconsiderate.
I, yes, exactly.
Oh, those
Yes,
people.
yes.
Goodness. They need a prayer. Alrighty. So time is catching up to us. What can be some lasting words that you can leave us off with so that we can continue on thinking?
Well, first of all, I do have a book that I published. It's a little bit, the title's a little bit wordy. So, what, who, why, where, how, when, plan, a parent's guide to preventing child sexual abuse. This tells you everything that you need to know. Um, it's all in the title, everything that
Right.
you need to know. Also, I'm very excited this summer. I am going to be in a documentary that's going to be on major streaming networks coming this summer called Legacy Makers. It's a series that I'll be posting more about. So look out for that, more information about that. And as always, what I would like to remind our adult survivors that are listening out there, if you were not able to get justice as a child, in many states, there are no statute of limitations for child sex crimes. If you know who did this to you and where they are, you can still press charges. And so if you're an adult and you never got the justice that you deserved, you still have the opportunity to do something now. Check the statute of limitations in your state. If there are statute of limitations in your state, let me know because I am going to be working to get all statute of limitations lifted across the country. So that's something that I'm going to be focused on working on. Yeah.
Wow, what a blessing. Well, God bless you, Yvonne, because you're doing
Thank you.
something that most definitely that is going to help a lot of people find that peace, find that closure, find that finally it's done. Or hopefully they can reach that crossroad, even though there's still so much healing within that has to be done. But thank you for writing your books. Thank you for making this your mission to try to prevent this for the next generation, for all those kiddos out there that have no voice, all those children out there that think that they no one is seeing them. I thank you for seeing them. I thank you for
Hmm,
acknowledging them. I
thank you.
appreciate that because there needs to be more people who are trying to defend those little ones out there. Oh my God, yes, I really do. Thank you for that. And ladies and
Thank you
gentlemen, if
so
you want
much.
to know more about Yvonne, because how could you not? How could you not want to know more about Yvonne, right? And all the great things that she has to offer the world, please check her out. I have her lovely website on this link, along with on my website and on everywhere, just so that you can have access to all the greatness that she has to offer the world. And obviously, so that you can continue on thinking. So, with that being said, bye.